more into it. So, let's start off something relatively light. You don't even have to think too much about it, but a quick Twitter question of the week. But one that's kind of interesting nonetheless. Salute to the real at the real my ex. Question of the week: if someone from 1990 suddenly woke up in 2024, our current year, what would surprise them most? So obviously that's even though there's always that meme when we think about the 90s was 20 years ago. Nah, bro, that's 30 years ago. So I pose to y'all this very question: if someone from the 90s, specifically I guess to the top of the 90s, woke up, they went in comatose, and they were knocked out for 30 years, and they woke up in this year, what do you think would surprise them the most? I'll start off with you, Ace, being the oldest. What do you think would surprise somebody the most?
Um, I think it would actually be the lack of, like, I don't know, not technology, but it doesn't look like we live in the 30 years into the
You think they would be
future.
expecting more?
Yes, yes, yes. Maybe not flying cars per se, but everything looks pretty much the same as it did in the 90s in terms of just like houses and, home design, interior design, things like that. Like, obviously styles have changed, but the technology around homes not too much. I mean, even people with smart homes, it all looks like it did back then, for the most part.
The
um
exterior, the structure, definitely, yeah.
yeah, and then like there's no like wall to wall screens on every wall or anything like that. Like, you remember Smart House?
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, yeah.
Although
There's
didn't the
nothing like
house look like a regular house? It was just the inside that was
the house
teched
did.
up.
Yeah, the house did look regular, but like, but yeah, like you could just call up a screen on any wall, and like the house would cook for you and things like this. So, like, that type of stuff is not really here yet, and I think somebody from the 90s being pushed 30 years into the future would expect that we would have that type of stuff.
That's actually a really interesting answer, and I definitely agree with you in the sentiment of like, yeah, when you look at the architecture, it's just definitely largely the same. I'm trying to think, and I feel as if whenever we're talking about like sci-fi, like media or like movies where this architecture just looks like a lot different, doesn't it take like hundreds of years?
Nah, I mean, Blade Runner is a perfect example where that was like, I mean, that was probably like 50 years into the future, because Blade Runner, the original movie, I think was set in 2019, and
All
it
the
came out
sci-fi
in the
movies are
70s.
we're currently living all the days of the sci-fi
Yeah,
movies.
Back to the Future came out in the
Exactly.
80s, and I
Yep.
think was it 20? It was pretty recently. It might have
Yeah,
been like
yeah.
2020 or something that the future was set in.
Yep.
Yeah,
We ain't got no hoverboards, bro.
Exactly.
That's what
yeah.
I wanted to watch those movies. I wanted that hoverboard. That shit looked
Yep.
fun as hell. We ain't got
I
no flying cars. We ain't got
feel,
no automatic clothing.
I feel like the
Yep.
engine.
Exactly. Yep.
I feel as if the engineer in me, the hoverboard, it's just like not practical. It's like not practical. It's
Well, practical. It's cool. It's cool, bro.
fair enough. I guess
Although it was kind of crazy that he's like propelling himself by just stepping on air like a regular skateboard.
Oh
But
yeah, I forgot about that.
like I'm not saying we can never get there, but I just like I don't know. It takes a lot to to fly.
Mhm.
man,
Um,
throw some magnets on that thing.
that's what I said back in the day, but people laughed me at the park.
I think somebody did that. Like, somebody actually did that.
Man, they probably
Um,
done it, but it's probably like all jank and like they made jetpacks, but it has all these requirements and only specific people can fly it. Like no one
That's what I'm
cares about
saying.
that. We want
Like,
like the commercial
yeah, yeah,
application.
yeah, 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 definitely.
but fair enough. How about you, Ghost? What do you think would surprise somebody the most if they, from 1990 to 2024, were sleeping, they just woke up?
I got the real answer for y'all. The real answer.
Oh,
The Warriors became a dynasty and won four
oh my
championships.
God, are you out of your
yo,
mind?
yo, I'm,
That would surprise them though.
I'm joking, but I'm actually kind of just because they were like so dog shit. No, maybe the Patriots would be a better. I think the Patriots would actually be better because they were even worse than the Warriors in the '90s. But
Yeah, they would be. They
that
wake up
aside,
expecting.
if
They wake up expecting the Cowboys to be dominant.
I mean the Cowboys did win some championships in the '90s, but they ain't won shit since. If we're being serious, talk about like the average person. I don't know. I think that I get where you're coming from, Ace, and that there will kind of be a level of disappointment that we don't have a certain amount of things. But I think seeing some of like the items that we use on an everyday basis, like just smartphones, for example,
Yeah,
and how the internet is so widespread. I think that the internet is probably like the easy answer, but just how incredibly diverse and widespread it is, all the forums we got, apps that you can talk to
forums.
people around the world. I think that's probably like it would probably wow someone if you just showed them, yeah, you could do all this on your phone that you couldn't even do on a computer back then.
Yeah,
And I don't know, there's like a lot of technological things that we're kind of expected to have by now, like flat screen TVs or laptops, computers being smaller, probably expected, but like phones in particular, I think it's a pretty substantial breakthrough.
yeah, yeah. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that comes to people's minds. Phones and even more so the internet. Just like everything is like just you just have it.
Yeah, streaming services and music, because you ain't got to worry about cassettes. You ain't got to worry about CDs. Got everything on one spot, one platform. But yeah,
Yeah, they might legitimately be surprised at a streaming service. Like they might not understand like the technology between like where is it coming from.
yep.
I like how it was. I mean, just three of us. I like how it was diverse answers because in my mind, and I don't know if this is kind of like the corny woke answer, but in my mind, I think what would surprise a person the most is the difference in like I almost want to come in here, but we're only like this is like the first topic, so I don't want to use any language that's cancelable. But I think people would be surprised of how soft it's gotten. I'll keep it at that. And because whenever I think about like the '90s, even though compared to like other eras, maybe the '90s even pretty soft, and you did start to see a more liberal aspects in the '90s. But yeah, compared to now, like I think a person waking up would be completely shocked because again the '90s still had that element of like I always say whenever like I hear certain rappers like rap pretty like they don't care, like pretty much like they don't care. Like first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, he's rapping like this is the '90s. Oh, this guy's acting like this is still the '90s using certain words. So I think that's what I would be. I think that's what would shock people. Just like you can't say certain things these days, and the cultures it ain't the same.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of. The thing is, it's like I think a lot of things, in terms of when you think about the future, you expect, like, you would expect higher levels of technology. So, again, with Ghost Point, like, the first thing that popped into my mind was the smartphone. But then I was like, but you would expect that. Like, if somebody thinking about the future would be like, oh, yeah, you'd probably be able to you probably a computer would be probably the size of your hand, and like you got like that type of stuff. I think that's something that somebody could have thought up back then, or would have expected back then, and to see it, it'd be like, oh wow, this actually happened. I think it would be cool, but not necessarily a surprise.
Mm.
And then with culture, like, on the one hand, I do agree that the culture and like some of the conflicts that we have culturally would be surprising. I don't necessarily think people becoming softer would be, because again, like in the future, you would expect more so that cultural I don't know, like I feel like I would expect more of an acceptance, or like, technology would help people to solve some of the issues and some of the like the divisive things that have have arisen out of culture. So on the one hand, like, while I do understand some of the cultural things would be surprising, it's I don't think you would necessarily expect like the the uh the like the aggressive culture that was prevalent in the 90s to remain, unless you expect like a totalitarian state or something like that, or just where it just got pushed to the extreme. um but yeah, that's like how I
But
frame the
potentially,
question
and
in
I'm
my
not
head.
mad at that outlook. When it comes to the phones, maybe that element, but I still think the internet would knock somebody's socks off. Like I don't think there's any. I don't think media properly portrayed how the internet would evolve. Um, and when I said a culture, the one of the biggest reasons why I think that is because like heck, you take people that are older, like are like old in our generation, that are like from the '90s, they can't even fully fathom how we got to where we are today and like how things are solved. Like some of these old heads be
Mm.
shocked when they say certain things online. They get like get certain level of backlash. So if you just took someone completely blind and you woke them up in this day and age, I still think they would be for a rude awakening. Like I literally think they would say something and somebody would say, "Oh, you can't say that," and they would be shocked by that.
I got you. That makes sense.
But
I
yeah,
also did consume a lot of sci-fi, so that might that might alter my outlook on the future, like when I was a kid, what I
yeah.
expected.
Although, Ghost brought up, they probably would have still consumed Back to the Future, Terminator, so they wouldn't be fully. They wouldn't like those are pretty popular media pieces of media. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, ultimately, I think it's safe to say if you woke up 30 years later from whatever time you're from, you're probably gonna experience some level of shock and surprise. But yeah, if anyone in the comments or listening has any other ideas of what somebody would be surprised by if they went from the '90s to now, definitely let us know. But if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.
Comments over here.